Chapter 15. I click Alicia's page off my phone just as Dad walks into the kitchen. "Hey, gorgeous," he says, giving me a kiss on the cheek. "Hey, Dad," I answer, shoving the phone back into my pocket. He places a tissue paper wrapped lump in front of me on the counter. "I forgot to give this to you when I got home yesterday." I pick it up and feel liquid sloshing around. "You don't have to keep bringing me snow globes. I'm not a kid anymore." "Don't remind me." He's smiling, but he still looks sad. "Aren't you going to open it?" I pull the tissue paper away to see a glass globe with a South African flag inside. "I know it's not the tacky plastic ones that you like, but you'd be amazed how hard it is to find a snow globe in South Africa." I shake it so that glitter fills the water. "It's perfect. Thanks." "Listen, I was thinking that the spring break must have been pretty boring. How about we pick a week right after school gets out and go on vacation, just the three of us? Anywhere you guys want. Hawaii, Mexico, Paris, anywhere. As long as we're not in jail by then." "Sure, that would be great." Dad pours himself a cup of coffee and leans his elbows on the counter next to mine. "Stop sulking, okay? I already told you that we're going to fix this Stanford mess. I'm sure it was just a big mistake. I've got to call in to a buddy of mine who has some pull to see what he can do." I can feel tears prickling the back of my eyes. Dad's been so nice about it since he got home, like it was Stanford's mistake, not mine. Once you get rejected from Stanford, that's it. No reconsiderations. Dad winces at the word rejected. Probably just some overzealous administrator who doesn't know what they're doing. He kisses me on the forehead. "Stanford's where you belong. We'll get you there, don't worry." I say. "Is it really where I belong?" I wait until he's shut the front door behind him before I pick up the house phone. It beeps as I scroll through the call history on the handset, trying to remember what day the salon called. Just as I'm getting impatient, I see the call from Leon's and a number. It doesn't take more than a few seconds to look up the salon on the internet and get an address. I have only an hour to get there before Alicia's appointment. Someone is pretending to be Alicia, and I have to find out who it is, even if I find out that it's Ava. I follow the directions to a small strip mall in Salona Beach. Leon's is wedged between a taqueria and a dry cleaners, and it's easy to spot because of the blown-up photos of slightly out-of-date haircuts posted in the window. Ava usually gets her haircut in the city at $200 a pop, and I can't imagine her coming all the way out here, even if she's trying to be incognito. I sit in my car with a good view of the front door, watching people come and go. My stomach is in knots, and I'm not sure if I'm hoping that Ava will show up or that she won't. Her car is nowhere in sight, but I'm not surprised. If she's coming out here as Alicia, she's not going to park her car right out front. Maybe she won't drive her car at all. I put the speeding ticket in the top drawer of my desk. It was for a 2011 Honda. What would Ava be doing in someone else's Honda? None of this makes any sense. Watching the numbers on the clock change makes time drag, and I get to 4:20 before I've had enough. Nobody even remotely matching Alicia's description has gone through the salon door. What if I missed her? Even though Ava is never early for things, what if she beat me here? I get out of the car and walk towards the salon. Having a confrontation here in front of all these people is better than not having a clue what she's up to. I pull open the door, and the uniquely salon smell of hair dye and perm solution hits me right in the face. "Excuse me." A woman with a clipboard pushes past me to the reception desk. "Here's my client card with all the info." "Thanks," says the bored-looking receptionist. "Take a seat and someone will be right with you." There are 6 chairs lining the styling area of this room, 3 on either side. 4 of them are accompanied by women in various stages of cut or dye jobs, but none of the women is Ava. Maybe she was right and it was a different Alicia Rios. I'm almost disappointed as I turn to go. "Alicia!" says a woman who's holding a blow dryer to an older woman's head. "Hold on 1 second." She snaps the dryer off and leans over to tell the woman something, handing her a magazine off the counter in front of her. The stylist's hair is a red color that is found nowhere in nature, and it's piled on her hair in its stiff, messy curls. I wonder if she did this to herself or if it was a training exercise by a new employee. She smiles at me and she approaches the front of the salon. I'm sorry, hon, but when you didn't show up today, I gave your time slot away. She walks up to a big appointment book that's spread out on a desk in the front. Let's see, she says, flipping pages. I'm booked for the beginning of next week, but things free up starting on Wednesday. I'm totally caught off guard. I don't know what to say. Has Ava been coming here in secret? The woman looks up and runs her fingers through the ends of my hair. We better make it Wednesday. I can't believe your hair's gotten this out of control in 6 short weeks. Looks like rats have been nesting in there. So Wednesday, at the same time? Sure, I say. Thanks. I grab a business card from the counter in case I need it later. I have one hand on the door when an idea hits me. Hey, could I get a look at my client card? I got a new cell number and I'm not sure you have it. That's right, I had to look up on the internet because the one we had wasn't working, the woman says, reaching for a small box that looks like it once held recipes. So much for high tech. She turns towards me and flips it open. Alphabetical order under R. Put your new address in there while you're at it, okay? She walks back to the woman in the chair. I flip through the cards casually in case anyone is watching me and pull out the one with Alicia's name on it. I don't recognize the handwriting, but that doesn't mean anything. It might have been filled out by someone who works here. It has a phone number written on it and scratched out, with our home number written over it, and an address in Oceanside. As far as I can remember, we don't even know anyone in Oceanside. Why would Ava use such a random address? I quickly punched the information into my phone and put the card back in the box. Nope, I call out. It's fine. I'll see you next week. Okay, Alicia. She waves with her free hand. See you Wednesday. Chapter 16. The echo of the bell had barely faded when the room fills with sounds of scraping the floor. Alexa, can I see you for a moment? Miss Campbell calls just as I reach the door. Sure, I say, hiking my backpack up and walking towards her desk. Ever since the email from Stanford, I've been letting things slip a little. Fine, maybe a lot. I square my shoulders and look straight ahead. It's not like I know what this is about. She pretends to look busy, straightening some papers on her desk. I didn't see your paper on Brave New World. I can feel my face get red, but I refuse to look away. That's because I didn't turn it in. That gets her attention. She looks up at me. Didn't turn it in? She repeats. Have you been sick? Are there problems at home? I shake my head. I know what Dad keeps saying, but I'm not sure even he can change the collective Stanford mind. And if I'm not going to Stanford, AP English is feeling a lot less important. Once I got past the guilt, it's actually been kind of freeing not to slave over 7 hours of homework every night. No, I just didn't see the point. I try not to smile at the fact that Miss Campbell is at a total loss for words. The point is to teach you how to think critically while you read and how to consolidate those thoughts into a coherent essay, all the things you're going to need next year at Stanford. I didn't get in. I say. You'd think it would get easier each time I say those words, but it doesn't. I'm not going to Stanford. Immediately, the annoyance in her eyes turns to pity. She wrote one of my recommendations, so she had a stake in it too. I'm so sorry, but any other university is going to require this level of analysis as well. Even if I can get in, I don't want to go anywhere else. I say. Come September, maybe I'll get a job, or maybe I'll travel, or maybe I'll sit around at home and do nothing, which is why I don't see the point of wasting my time with an essay. I look away as tears fill my eyes. There are so many options, Miss Campbell begins. Not for me, I say, angrily wiping my tears on my sleeve. I've never missed an assignment, never failed a test, and being a crappy student is harder than I thought it would be. Not only am I a total loser academically, but I can't help standing here and bawling like a baby about it. Look, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I might as well not waste my time with papers and tests that aren't going to do me any good. You can still turn in late, she says, clearly not listening to me. I'll mark it down a grade, but it'll still count. Thanks, I say, turning towards the door, knowing that missing this first paper was hard, but the rest will come easy. But I'll be fine. I rush to AP Spanish, but have barely taken my seat when I think I hear my name over the loudspeaker. Was that for me? I asked the girl in the next chair. She shrugs. but Zane slides into the seat on the other side of me and says, "Yeah, they called you to the front office." "What now?" "Want me to come with you?" he asked, handing me my backpack, which was on the floor next to his feet. "No, I'm sure it's no big deal." I shove my books into my bag and head in a quickly emptying hallway. I don't see the cops until I'm about to open the office door. In that split second, I start to panic, but I see Principal Forrester recognize me and say something from behind the glass. The rest of the room turns to look, so I take a deep breath and step inside. "What's going on?" I ask, trying not to sound as freaked out as I really am. The men turn, and I see Detective Nato and 2 cops I don't know. I hear a radio squawk and see a female cop sitting in one of those plastic chairs, talking to a radio that's attached to her shoulder. Ava is standing next to the front office lady, looking shaky and pale. "They found Dylan," she says, her eyes filling with tears. "Outside the gym at the university." I look at all the serious faces, not totally understanding what she's saying. "What do you mean they found him?" "Dead. Someone killed him, just like Casey," she says, tears streaming down her face and a look of fear in her eyes that I've never seen before. "Alicia?" one of the men asked, turning towards us. He's not dressed in a uniform, but is wearing a black windbreaker with a badge embroidered on the front. "I already told you, there's no Alicia Rios," Principal Forrester says. "I told them they had the wrong girls," she says to me, and I smile at her gratefully. "Alexa and Ava are 2 of our best students." Detective Nato steps forward. "If there's no Alicia Rios, then we have even more to talk about than I thought." I look at Principal Forrester and have no idea what to say. It feels like we're in it deep. "It's true. It was all a joke." I go for a small smile, but nobody in the room smiles back. Detective Nato's eyes have lost all their friendliness as he looks from me to Ava. "There have been some further developments, I'm afraid." He glances down at a screen in his hand and then back at me. "If you're not Alicia, then what is your name?" "I'm Lexi. Alexa." The cops' faces are serious. I force a small laugh. "All of this is a total misunderstanding." "That's right." Ava jumps in, wiping her cheeks with the palm of her hand. I can't tell if she's just acting or if she's really this upset. "Just a misunderstanding. There really isn't Alicia Rios. We made her up, and then we got her a fake ID," I say, and then glancing at the principal, who frowns. "Not for drinking or anything, just so it looked more authentic." I feel like I'm talking too fast, trying to cover too much ground in one sentence. "And we didn't want to get busted for that," Ava jumps in. "So when you came to our house before, we just said Alicia was out so we wouldn't get in trouble." One of the other cops looks at us. "I'm afraid you're in a lot more trouble than just a fake ID." He turns to the others. "What should we do here? Any idea?" Detective Nato looks down at his computer. "The warrant is for Alicia Rios." He looks back at us. "I guess we should take them both in until we can get to the bottom of this." "Warrant?" I ask. I can feel the situation getting more serious. "What do you need a warrant for?" The woman cop takes a step towards us. "We have a warrant for the arrest of Alicia Rios on suspicion of murder." She puts her hand on her belt and fingers the shining handcuffs that are hanging there. "Are you kidding me?" Ava says, putting her hands up and taking a step backwards. I can see her whole body shaking. "I'm sorry Dylan's dead, but we didn't do anything wrong." "Maybe we should take a trip down to the station and try to figure all this out," the tall cop with the glasses says. "You can't arrest me," Ava says, her voice barely audible and tears streaming down her face. She isn't even trying to stop her tears anymore. I follow her glance to the hallway where people are starting to gather, looking in the windows like it's some kind of show. "Not in front of everyone." The last few words are reduced to a whisper as she chokes back sobs. I see that Ava is teetering on the brink of hysteria as the woman pulls the handcuffs off her belt and moves towards her. Ava's breath comes in ragged bursts and her face has gone completely white. I watch her hands tremble as the cop pulls one arm behind her back. At this moment, I see how vulnerable Ava is. Technically, it's her fault we're in this mess at all, but I should have told the truth at the station that day. The only thing I know for sure is that I didn't kill anybody, and that's the best defense I have right now. I wish I could say the same for Ava. I didn't do anything wrong, Ava insists as the cops look at each other, obviously unsure about what to do next. She's right. I step in between her and the cops. This doesn't have anything to do with Ava. I was with Casey that night. We went out to dinner and then went down to the beach, but he was very much alive the last time I saw him, and I don't have any idea what happened to Dylan. The detective puts a hand out to stop the cop from handcuffing Ava. So it was you down at the police station? Yes. You took me in the room and showed me the surveillance photo of the girl in that red leather jacket. I glance at Ava, but I can't tell if she realizes what I'm saying. I'm not sure she even remembers the red jacket at this point, but I silently beg her to keep her mouth shut. The only way to keep us both out of trouble is to get the cops to take me. They can't convict me if I didn't have anything to do with the deaths. I know the suspicion is mounting, but I need to find out if Ava's involved before throwing her to the system. This is the last little bit of control I have. I concentrate on breathing slowly, trying everything I can to stay calm and in control. I'm the one you want, not Ava. I'll go with you. The woman cop hesitates, and I can see that she's not sure what to do. I turn to her. Take me, I repeat. But you're not Alicia Rios, the cop says, looking at me. And neither is she. I point to Ava. You don't get it. Alicia doesn't exist. I feel my frustration rising as nobody seems to be listening. Give him your IDs, Principal Forrester says, nodding at the school tags that are hanging around our necks. Detective Nato takes both of them and compares them side by side. So you really are twins? Yes, Ava says, and I can hear the relief in her voice. Twins, not triplets! He holds my ID up. And this is you? He asks. Alexa? And you were with Casey the night before he died? Yes. I glance outside the doors to where the crowd is getting bigger and I start to panic. Let's just go. Principal Forrester steps between me and the cop. I can't do anything to stop them from taking you, but I'll get in touch with your father right away and have him meet you down at the station. Thanks, I say, glad at least I don't have to be the one to call Dad. I make a move towards the door, but the woman cop stops me. You have to be handcuffed, she says, for everyone's safety. I'm operating on autopilot as I turn around and feel the heavy metallic cuffs snap onto my wrist. I suddenly feel claustrophobic, like I can't breathe. Lexi! Ava cries. What are you doing? This is crazy! I look her straight in the eye, relieved for the moment that it's me and not her. I have to hold on to this one tiny victory. It's going to be fine. We didn't do anything wrong, so there's nothing to worry about. I hope she knows enough to shut up and keep herself out of trouble. Ava's eyes fill with tears again, and she searches for something to say. Calm down. It's going to be fine, I repeat. One of the cops holds up my backpack and turns to me. May I? Whatever, I say impatiently. There's nothing in there except my books and the lunch Cecilia packed me this morning. Ava steps forward. I'll take it home for her. We have to take it into evidence, the cop says, opening it and rifling through the contents. Escorted by all the cops, I walk through the silent hallway with my head up, looking straight ahead, fully aware of the eyes that are on me as we pass several open classroom doors. As we get to the large circular driveway out front, I see a big yellow tow truck with a white car attached to the back of it. My car! I say, watching the truck pull it around the corner and out of sight. It feels like it's being stolen from me right in front of everyone. Part of the warrant, Detective Nato says. I hesitate, feeling like I'm surrendering everything right now. But Casey was never in my car. Then you don't have anything to worry about, he says. Watch your head, the woman cop says as she opens the back door and lets me slide awkwardly into the squad car that's parked at the curb. Detective Nato sticks his head into the back seat. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. I tune out the rest of it. I've heard it recited countless times on TV shows and in movies. I never thought I'd hear it in real life. I feel a sense of expectation and I focus on him again. Do you understand these rights? Yes, I say, even though I haven't heard a word he said in the past couple minutes. I look beyond the front of the cop car and see crowds at every window, and Ava, Principal Forrester, and a small knot of people at the top of the steps. Slater leans over and says something to Ava, but she just shakes her head frantically. Let's just go, I beg the detective. I'm calling Dad, too, Ava shouts, already tapping her phone. Tell me what to do. I allow myself a small feeling of relief as the car door is shut and I can't hear anything else from outside. Dad will work it out. He'll be pissed, but he'll get this all figured out. Ava's on the phone, one hand waving in the air as she tries to explain what's going on to Dad. I can only imagine what's happening at the other end, but I really don't care. All I want is for him to hurry. As I shift in my seat and look behind me, I catch sight of Zane in the side doorway, his eyes full of concern as they lock on mine. For once, Zane is right. I'm in way over my head. Chapter 17. I rest my forehead against the front seat for the entire drive. I don't want to look out the window and see anyone I know. Just being in the back of a cop car with handcuffs on makes me feel a guilt that's hard to shake, no matter how many times I protest that I'm innocent. The car stops and I look up to see the brick building from last week. Only this time things are so different. That day I could turn around and walk out any time. The heavy, warm metal around my wrist reminds me that this is no longer true. I'm silently grateful that there's nobody waiting out front as the woman cop opens the back door and walks with me into the side entrance of the station. No orange plastic chairs this time. No slightly shrilly greeting by the desk cop. Just harsh fluorescent lighting and what looks like miles of shiny linoleum leading down a long hallway. There are no sounds but the clinking of keys and the occasional squawk of noise from the cop's radio. I look around, but I don't see Detective Nato and the others anywhere. I wonder if we beat him here. I expect to get fingerprinted and have my mugshot taken, but to my surprise we take a right at the end of the long hallway and stop outside another interrogation room. The cop unlocks it and ushers me inside. It looks just like the one I was in the other day, right down to the hard plastic chair, which she now motions me into. As soon as I sit, she unlocks the handcuffs and pops them off my wrist. I suddenly feel like I can breathe again. We don't have to worry about you, right? She says, tucking them back into her belt. No, I say. Ma'am. I add quickly, because it seems like the right thing to do. I shake my hands out to get rid of the feeling of heaviness that's still on my wrist. Sit tight, someone will be with you in a moment, she says and heads for the door. I think about asking her about the booking and the mugshots, but then I decide that it's probably better to just sit here and shut up. No use reminding them of the technicalities if they somehow forgot. I sit back in the chair and wait, staring at the ceiling and at the clock over the door. Everywhere but at the big mirror on the wall in front of me. I don't have to see behind it to know I'm being watched. After what seems like an eternity, Detective Nato walks in, followed by another slightly taller cop. This is Detective Richardson, Nato says as he sits down next to me and the other detective takes his place at the other end of the table. I nod, guessing correctly that the handshakes aren't really part of the arrest process. Am I under arrest? I ask. The two detectives exchange a glance. That depends, Detective Nato says. He leans forward on his elbows across the small white table. Why don't you start by telling us about Alicia? I sit back and relax just a little. If I were seriously in trouble, I'd be backed up to a yardstick on the wall getting my picture taken right now. I just have to explain it so they understand. There's no Alicia. Ava and I made her up. I smile a little but get no reaction from either man. It started out as just something fun. You know, we'd take turns being Alicia to go out with different guys. Well, Ava mostly went out with him. I filled in for her sometimes. So you lied to me the last time you were here, Detective Nato says, his eyes crinkling with concern. I have no good excuse at this point. I did. about my name, but everything else was the truth. I went out with Casey the night before he died. I didn't see him after that. The other cop flips through a manila folder. We have eyewitnesses that put you on the beach last Thursday when an altercation broke out with Dylan Harrington and a young woman named Selena Lee. I feel an icy shiver work down the length of my spine. I don't know how to get out of this without implicating Ava. If they find out she was with Dylan, they'll haul her in here for sure. If she is involved in this, I can't be the one who sells her out. I take a deep breath and dive in. He was cheating on me, I say quickly before I have time to think about it. Now I'm in too deep to turn back. I caught him, we had an argument, and we broke up, but that's it. He was alive the last time I saw him. I pause, but I have to know. What happened to him? I can feel Detective Nato watching him carefully. Preliminary reports say that he was stabbed in the back of the neck. He tilts his head. Exactly the same as Casey Stewart. Bloody images flash through my mind. That's awful. The emotion behind it genuine. Neither of those guys deserve to die. Detective Nato brings out the photo of the girl with the red jacket. So you were with Casey Stewart the night he was killed? I stare at him. They're trying to trick me. No, it was the night before, in the parking lot of the Cheesecake Factory. I point to the photo. But I don't know who that is, because it's not me. I was telling the complete truth about that. I hesitate, but I have to account for any of my DNA that they might have found on the body. Look, I didn't tell you everything about that night. They don't say anything, so I continue. I met him there after he got off work at 10. We walked on the beach and then had some ice cream. It got cold, so we went back to his car to talk some more. The restaurant had closed by then, so the parking lot was pretty empty. I hesitate, but then continue, knowing I'm already in this far. Things, got a little bit crazy. I tried to get out of the car, and I can't bring myself to say it. Even bringing it up makes scenes from that night flash through my mind. The two detectives are leaning forward, listening intently. He what? Detective Nato finally asked. He wouldn't let me go, I say, squeezing my eyes shut as the images from that night replay in my brain. He wouldn't stop when I told him to. He held me down against my seat. I stop here to catch my breath. The image of Casey looming over me, the feel of his teeth on my skin, the sound of his laugh are all too vivid. But you got away? Detective Nato asked. Yes. I nod. My dad is big into self-defense. He made us take classes to learn what to do if we were ever in a situation like that. What'd you use? Detective Richardson asked. My keys, I say. Detective Nato's head snaps up and he glances at the big mirror on the opposite wall. Your keys? Yes. I hold up one fist. You put them in between your fingers like this. I know I only had one shot at him, so I took it, right across his cheek. I look at the two of them. Not enough to make him stop, but enough to slow down. But enough to slow him down so I could get the hell out of there and back to my car. And that's it? Detective Nato asks. That's it, I say. They glance at each other. Starting to sound like motive to me. Detective Richardson says quietly. What I've just done starts to sink in. I've handed them the one thing they were missing. Motive? I say. There's no motive because nothing else happened. I started the car and got out of there as fast as I could. The last time I saw him, he was leaning against his car in the parking lot, alive. Detective Nato flips through the folder. And what time was this? About 11 o'clock, I say. And you went straight home? Yes. I look him right in the eye. I don't know who that is in the picture you have, but it wasn't me or Ava. And you still maintain that Casey didn't scratch you, even if evidence says otherwise? I remember the DNA they took from my cheek the last time I was here. I feel set up again. The DNA you found under his fingernails matches mine? The two detectives exchange worry looks. It does. It does, Detective Richardson says. He leans forward and puts his elbows on the table. And from the looks of it, it would have been a fairly large scratch. The only thing I know is that Casey didn't scratch me that night. And that Ava and I basically have the same DNA. I pull up my sleeves and show them my arms. See? No scratches. I already told you that I was in Casey's car that night, so even if my DNA is in the car, it doesn't prove anything. Detective Nato flips through the folder. Where were you around 5 o'clock this morning? Why? Is that when Dylan was killed? He glances at Detective Richardson. Approximately. Sleeping. At home. Can anyone verify that? I shrugged. Cecilia was in the kitchen packing our lunches when I got up at 6:30. She'll tell you that I was home, asleep. The detective shares a glance and I know that I'm in trouble. The university is only about 20 minutes from the house. Plenty of time to get up there, kill Dylan, and get back before anyone else got up. Says here that you're taking AP Biology, and that you've applied to some prestigious schools next year. Detective Richardson says. What's your major going to be? Pre-med? I look at him, but have no idea where he's going with this. It seems like every time I open my mouth, I get into bigger trouble. No, business. But you've taken a lot of science courses. Yeah, I like science, so. Interesting, Detective Nato says. He pulls some photos from the folder and hands them to me. I glance at Dylan's deathly white profile and then spreading pool of black blood next to him and push the photo away. The corpse doesn't look anything like the guy I met outside Ava's room that night. I don't want to see that. Detective Nato pulls the photo back and looks at it as if studying it for the first time. What's interesting is that we're thinking that whoever did this has some sort of medical or science background. He turns in his chair and puts one finger on the back of his head just below his skull. Because you have to know the exact spot to slip the knife into so that severing the spine makes the victim immediately helpless. He turns back around, not to mention dead. He leans forward on the table again. It's how they kill livestock on small farms. Knowing a trick like that would be a great equalizer, wouldn't it? All it would take is a small knife and a little knowledge of the human body, and someone who is much smaller. He looks me up and down. Say 5'2", could disable a much larger person. I feel like Detective Nato has already convicted me. I look at him, but there's no sympathy in his eyes. This is all slipping out of control. Look, there's no way I could do that to an animal, much less a person. And maybe your sample was contaminated or your tests were wrong, that I didn't have anything to do with Casey's death or Dylan's. Detective Nato puts both palms face up on the table. That's what you keep saying. We're just trying to do our job. Tracking down leads. He looks directly at me and makes a theoretical pause. The only problem is that all the leads keep pointing to you. I can feel the panic rising in my throat as I look around the bare room. What the hell is going on here? I told them the truth, at least most of it. I should be walking out of here by now. I didn't do anything wrong, I say, my voice echoing off the blank walls. Yes, I went out with Casey, but that's it. No way I could ever kill anyone. I can feel my brain grasping at anything that might make this all go away. What about the sunflower seeds? I told you, some strange things have been going on lately. I think someone's been following us, trying to set us up. Detective Richardson leans forward on the chair. Funny thing about the seeds, he says, flipping through the papers in a file. We did get a DNA hit on them. And Alicia Rios. He pauses. At least one Alicia Rios who appeared down at the police station last week. I look at the two of them, but neither of them smiles. What do you mean? My DNA was on them? That's impossible. Science doesn't lie, the detective says. Maybe that was from when I picked them up off the ground, but there was nothing else. The door opens and a woman I don't recognize walks in. The steering wheel tested positive for blood, she says to the detective. We're getting trace on it right away. Frustration is splitting my body as my mind races. I already told you! In light of what you told us, we're going to need your keys too. They're in my backpack, I say, my frustration rising. It feels like this is all an insane nightmare. Which you already have. How long? I'm interrupted by the door being flung open. Don't say another word! A tall woman in jeans and an off-white sweater says to me as she surveys the room. She's not wearing any makeup and her straight blonde hair is pulled back into a low ponytail. She looks more like an elementary school teacher than a cop. Detective Nato closes the file and leans back in his chair. That was fast. Why are you even bothering to question her? The woman asks. You know I'll get all of this thrown out in court. She's a minor, for God's sake. She's 17, Detective Richardson says, and under suspicion of murder. When it goes to court, they're going to request to try her as an adult anyway. Fear grips my chest as I hear those last words. Tried as an adult? How in the world could it ever get that far? This is all so crazy. I look from the woman back to the detectives. What's going on? Sorry, the woman says, walking over and extending her hand. Alicia Alvarez, defense attorney. She looks at me intently. Your defense attorney. I don't need an attorney, I say. I didn't do anything wrong. Actually, says Detective Nato, pushing himself away from the table. You probably do need one, and as Miss Alvarez here's one of the best defense attorneys in the state, you might want to listen to her. Did my dad send you? The thought of Dad knowing that I'm sitting in jail makes me feel a little sick to my stomach. Because this whole thing is crazy. She glances at the mirror across the room. Let's talk about this once we get outside. She extends her hand to help me out of my chair. I'm assuming we're done here, she says to the room in general. We do have a warrant, Detective Nato says, handing her a piece of paper. Miss Alvarez lifts her eyebrows. And what's the name on the warrant? Irrelevant, he says. Highly relevant, she says, tucking the paper into her bag. You have a warrant for someone who is not my client, yet you insist on illegally detaining and questioning her. We don't need a warrant on a felony, as you well know, Detective Nato says, and nothing that was done here was illegal. Let's go, she says to me, turning on her heel. I glance at the detectives. What about my car? What about it? The lawyer asks. They have it, I say. My backpack too. She shakes her head. You guys don't want to quit, do you? The car tested positive for blood, Detective Nato says, a hint of smile on his face. In case Stewart had an antemortem gash on his cheek made by a set of car keys like the one Alexa has, we're sure the DNA in her car is going to be his. I already told you why, I say. I turn to Miss Alvarez. I did scratch Casey with the keys, but only to get him off me. That's it. She looks at the two detectives and then beyond them towards the mirror. We're going to need some privacy for a few moments. You can use my office, Detective Nato says. This way, Miss Alvarez says, leading me into the hallway. She heads straight for a door on the left and ushers me into it. Apparently she knows her way around the police station. So how about you tell me what's going on? She says after closing the door behind us. There are no recording devices in this office, so whatever you tell me is in the strictest confidence. What have you told them? I've been telling the truth, I say, but nobody believes me. She leans against the door. I need to know what you said so I know where to begin your defense. Her gaze stays on me as I quickly recount how Ava and I worked Alicia, and what happened that night from the time when Casey and I left the restaurant until I drove away. And then the cops showed me pictures of some girl who was nearby around the time he was killed, but it wasn't me. I can feel hot tears pressing against the back of my eyes. I swear it wasn't me. This display of emotion seems to have no effect on her. Okay, so you say that Casey was never in your car? No, I shake my head. Never. She lifts her eyebrows but otherwise doesn't react. So there'd be no reason why his fingerprints would be there. I sniff a little bit. No, I'm sure of it. Okay, she says. You might not like this, but I'm going to suggest that you let them keep your car. You already gave them the explanation about the keys, and it's fairly believable. It's believable because it's true, I say. She waves that comment away as the truth has nothing to do with it. If we let them have the car now, it'll save us time later. She glances at me. They'll only get another warrant and tow it down here in a few days. This way, it'll lower we're cooperating with them, and we can get your car back to you by tomorrow. Hopefully you're back for 2. Miss Alvarez makes it look like she's in control, and for the first time all afternoon, I feel a bit relieved. Okay, I swear, this is all a big misunderstanding. I hesitate, but decide that I have to trust her. I don't really have much of a choice. Listen, I have to tell you the truth. Ava went out with Dylan, not me. She looks puzzled. Who's Dylan? I stop my heart in my throat. She doesn't know about Dylan. A guy who was killed this morning. I can't even look at her when I say the next part. It sounds so bad. Another guy who went out with Alicia Rios. She lets out a deep sigh. Apparently I have some more talking to do, she says, looking around the room. But not here. She sits down on the corner of the desk. I have to tell you, the detective was right. They don't need a warrant for a felony. And from what I can tell, they're going to arrest you today. I start to panic at her words, my eyes filling with tears. All I can picture is a cold jail cell with a toilet in the corner. I can't go to jail. Don't worry. She leans forward and puts one hand on my shoulder. They're just going to fingerprint you and take photos, and they'll have you loose in another hour in 849B in under custody. You won't go to jail today. I nod as the words sink in, and I wipe my eyes on my sleeve. Thanks. She looks down at her jeans. I was volunteering at the shelter when I got called away, and I need some time to get the details of the case. We can meet in my office in a couple of days. I'll answer any charges for you, and I'll make sure there are no more surprises. She opens the door. Let's go. I like that it feels like someone is on my side, even if she doesn't totally believe my story. Was my dad mad? I ask as I follow her out the door. When he called you? She turns back to look at me, a slightly confused look on her face. Your dad? I don't know if he's angry or not. She shrugs. I was sent by Zane Romero.